Keeping score.
Keeping score. Okay, I'm ready. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen. Muhammadin an-Nabi al-Ummi. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. يقول الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Well, today's discussion is just a general discussion, and actually it's bringing a lot of things together, and hopefully it'll have some direction for like where we are now, what we're getting ready to do, or what we've already been doing. And even when we use the word, well, we're getting ready to do this, we're getting ready to do that, our whole process is a process of evolution. And we're always in the process of evolving. And right now, we're in a pretty serious evolutionary process. That's why I use the title, Keeping Score. So keeping score means that, you always keeping score of what the score is. You're in a struggle. So we want to keep score with not only how we're doing and what the scoreboard looks like to us, but we also want to look at their scoreboard, what their scoreboard looks like, either to themselves or to the world, but we're keeping a realistic scoreboard. So our scoreboard will relate to the historical process, and because sometimes to get the real score, you have to deal with the historical process. And if you have certain goals and certain places you want to go, certain things that you want to do, you have to keep track of it so that you know generally what the score is as related to where you're trying to go, what your enemy is doing, what amount of opposition you have, and keeping track of it. I don't know if y'all remember, but I had one little outline, a little date outline from 1986. And it had on there the 4 books. I had the accordion folder, and that mean it was, what happened at that time was, like we have all these papers like this right here. We've always had a clipboard and then we would keep notes on the clipboard, and then we would take those and put them into a folder So if you always got a clipboard and you're taking notations, even you may wake up from sleep, something cross your mind, and you write it down and go back to sleep. Well, if boss man get your notes, if that's 86, say for the last 6 years, say like if you came home in 1980, or for the last 5 years when you came home. And you know boss man has your clipboard, has your notes, has your whole accordion folder, and of course he's gonna read all of that. And you remember what you have written because you just happen to have another set of that same type of thing, you know. And so that may be the start of real deep long-range planning. Because boss man has what he feels is your thought patterns, your thinking process, your notes and everything for what's coming up. So, if y'all would remember, I wrote on that, at around that date, Big Victory. Okay, what did that big victory mean? That means that your enemy, of course, he even had all that stuff all the time, because when I would go run, or when I would go somewhere, they would come in and go through, you know, all this stuff and probably taking pictures of it. But now I specifically know that they have my thought patterns and what I've been planning, and if they have a whole series for the last 6 years, 5 or 6 years, then that's enough to give them an insight into your thinking, your motivations, the whole show. So most people would think, oh, this is bad. Well, why do I write Big Victory? That's just a reminder to me. It don't mean nothing to nobody. This is a big victory. Why? Because they have that, and I know what they have. Now, what we're going to do within the next period of time, we're going to use every bit of what they have. That means all of those notes, all of the programs, and even all of it was still written on the same type of stuff. Like if we had a program, we used it's for scratch paper. So we don't waste any, like we got a stack of that paper, no problem. We use all of our old flyers for scratch paper. So this is gonna get semi-sophisticated because it's necessary at that time to evolve to a higher level of sophistication. And where should we go? Well, we're going to go exactly where the outline shows them. What they got, and they're close to genuine because you might know that they're reading your stuff when you leave, you know what I mean? Masjid is empty, so you're gonna, but now you got it, they got all of your stuff at one time and they can read it. And they can handle it, they can stick this piece over here, that piece over there. Okay, so now, well then, why is that a big victory if they got all your plans, all your thoughts, all your everything that you got. If you wake up in the middle of the night, then write down a note and then go back to sleep. Then they got that right there. They got it. So now, it's almost like one step beyond. Okay, you got it. So now, what do you do with it? What you do with it is you keep the same pattern. And you try to estimate, you don't have to try to estimate, you estimate. Now you have a picture of what your mind looks like to them. They're pretty accurate already. They've been around you all the time and they know where they got everybody there, in and out. It's okay. Probably they read it all, but now they're going to try to play psychological mumbo jumbo with you, so they're going to let you know we know where you're coming from. And we got all of your stuff. We got your accordion folder that's been the last 6 years of your notes and all your paperwork for all of that time. So they remind me of something Boss Man used to tell us when we were children, when they arrest you. They would say, because remember, they would take all the little black kids, they would always make a notation. They stop you, you're on a bicycle, what's your name, da, 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 and they would pull out their little flip notepad. Okay. Now, that means they got the beat cops and all these people in your area, they've been doing that to you and everybody else all over the United States. That's their pattern of behavior. That's why when I was a kid, when the police would pull up, all the kids would run away. You didn't know why they was running, but they knew that the police was bad, that they're gonna get, okay, now, know yourself, know your enemy, 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Now, suppose you purposely lay out for them the whole pattern. First of all, you're not going to have all your notes that you're right there, right by your bed, you know, and you know that everybody in the place is the police. When I say everybody, that means everybody except my sons at that time. You just know that. So that you know that they got access to, unless it's a trap. Why did we write Big Victory in that? Because now they've obviously got all of that. And their idea is to make me think that we got you because we got all of your thoughts, all of your ideas, all of your plans, and we have a day-to-day record for the last 5 or 6 years. If it's 86, for the last 5 years, we got it down pat. And you're not going to change, you know, you're not going to change your pattern of behavior, your thought pattern. You're just not going to do it, right? Therefore, if that's what they think, then that's good, because that's what you set them up to think. That's a setup. So, now, we'll go into where we've been coming from for quite a while. I have right here on the same type of notes about keeping score. The first thing it says is, my management style is a sign of CIA, FBI systems of discombobulation. Put picture many different teams as one. I am a sign of their discombobulating longevity. Now, that's a real note to myself. This idea of keeping score is to know where you're at and know where your enemy's at all times. You can just look at the scoreboard. If we're so far behind, how many innings is left in the game, right? How many? We know what we got to do, right, to win this game. We have to know how much momentum we have to pick up and how much that we have to do and accumulate and associate and assimilate in order to win this game. But there's the other element that we have is longevity. One of the things that we learned after being in the game for a while, this idea of longevity. Martin Luther King said it in his it might have been his last speech, about longevity has its place, the one where I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. That was it. He says, basically everybody wants to live a long time. He's saying longevity has its place, but basically what he's telling everybody, I'm not going to get there with you, but the people will reach the promised land, is what he's saying. That was his last speech in Memphis. But the key to me in that is not only going to the mountaintop, the promised land, but longevity. In later years, as we studied, we realized one of the keys to success, one of the keys to revolutionary or evolutionary process is the ability to be around a long time in order to evolve. But what we had noticed is that they had taken out most of our people, most of our groups, and because we live in a society, an urban society, and it's not a society that is built for guerrilla warfare. In other words, you're not going to go out in the woods in the United States and build a revolutionary base camp. The other thing is that you're not going to do it in your neighborhood either, because there are so many eyes on you and on the neighborhood and on the community. Boss man got eyes everywhere. So now, then what type of system are you going to employ? Mr. Revolutionary, Mr. Evolutionary? That means you're going to have to do the highest level. Sophistication means that you're going to have to develop and employ and deploy. Employ is to make it, but deploy is to put that system out there, right? Deployment, when you deploy soldiers, you're going to deploy them. So we have to develop, if you're seeing all the so-called revolutionaries being wiped out, slaughtered, killed, okay, you're gonna have to take charge of certain things. You're gonna have to deploy and employ a system that have certain characteristics, especially after you begin to study revolution for real, and the main things that you hear, the main things that you see, and when you go overseas and you see where revolutions and decolonization places, have taken place, there's certain characteristics. If it was Cuba, they had the Sierra Madres. They go to the Sierra Madres. If it was in Angola, Mozambique, they had the bush. They could go out in the bush. If they had South Africa, when they just jumped off and started their bombing process, maybe 61, 62, 63 and all that, by 63, they was all on Robben Island. 64, something like that. They was on Robben Island. Why? Because they had so many snitches in the townships. And therefore, they had no place. The only people keeping their secrets was the people that are with them. And you don't know how many are infiltrators and what have you. So now, you remember now, when you get away from here and you get a chance to go into a revolutionary environment, in a decolonizing environment, you got time to really study and look at it. And if you somewhere got in your mind that you're going to go back to the U.S.,